Good day, y'all. We back for the next segment of A Fool's Journey. Um, the last video we started with just talking about how everyone's journey begins. So your journey begins with your parents because without them, how do you get here, right? So I touched on more of the feelings and emotions that I took from my experience with my mom in the first video. So this video is going to be more centered around my feelings and emotions that I took from my experience with my dad. Um, because again, he's the other part of who I am. So, there was a post that I quoted at the beginning of the last video, which was an unhealed mother is a daughter's first enemy. But when it comes to, fathers, an unhealed father is a daughter's first heartbreak. So the first, man to ever break your heart is always going to be your father in whichever way that looks for you, because everybody's story is different, right? Maybe your father never was your heartbreak. Maybe you didn't have to experience that, maybe some of us or someone out there, had the great dad that never, you know, was absent or took them for granted or however, whatever have you, whatever your story is. But for me, um, I can say that I have some abandonment issues that I am working through, which are due in large part to the relationship that I held with my dad. And it is also a large part in the lack of trust that I hold in the place and the space where I should be able to allow a partner to exist. Um, there's a lack of trust there that I hold because of it, and that's again something that I'm currently working through on this journey so that I can be able to be trusting and be open enough to, let whoever God sees fit to put in that space and place with me, to be able to let them, you know, be that helpmate in my life and be that person that I can trust because, um, you know, we're here to love. I can't speak for everyone, but I know what I want. I know I want to experience a healthy, stable relationship that is reciprocal and emotionally balanced, physically balanced, spiritually balanced. Um, all of those great things that can come when you allow another great person into your world. Um, but, whew, um, in the beginning, when I was younger, my dad was kind of my hero, to in a sense. Like he was present at first, at least to my knowledge, to my memories. He was present. Um, he used to do our hair. I do remember that. He was a great cook. So, that those were all like good qualities about him that um I had, like the perception I had of him at that time. Being a young girl. And I got hit by a car when I was about 5 or 6, somewhere in there. And him and my grandfather were the two people who were able to, save me and pull me out from under the car after I got hit. So, that was to have that experience, right? And your father and your grandfather, which were two very prominent men in my life at that time, to have them be the ones to save you, it was everything, Daddy, daddy saved the day, in a sense. So, like that was the perception that I had built up of him as his daughter. And not long after that, though, that's when the heartbreak happened. And when my world kind of shattered because different things, information, and seeing for yourself, like things just started to change. And, he started to not be around as much and not come around as much. And sometimes when he did come around, he, wouldn't stay long, or, it just almost seemed like I went from being a priority to not. And so what happens within a young girl who is experiencing the pullback of, the person who's supposed to be her protector? Um, you know, I can't speak for anyone else, but it made me want to, cling on more. But it also created insecurities within me that I wasn't good enough. I wasn't worthy. And to give more insight to that, like my dad was on drugs, so he was a military man. There was a point in his life where that was not the case. He was in the Navy, but after the Navy, at some point his life took a turn. And when his life took that turn, our lives took a turn. And it, like I said, it created a big sense of not feeling like I was worthy enough to for him to put me first. And at that time, I never thought of it as me, because it was always like a me and my sister thing in my mind. So I would think of it like us, like why are we, I remember having a conversation with him, and or rather it wasn't a conversation, it was more or less me yelling at him when I was a little older, like, why weren't we good enough? You know what I'm saying? Why didn't you love us enough to put the drugs aside and put us first? Like, I couldn't fathom in my mind that anything could be more important than being there for your kids, being there for your family. Like, I couldn't equate what he was dealing with internally, right, with how he was lacking in my world. Because I didn't have that understanding at that young age. So it was, all I know is it was good and then it wasn't. And so there's this song called Daughters by John Mayer. And it's one of my favorite songs, but it's also a song that, ties into the beginning of my journey, or anyone's journey with their parents, right? And there's a part in the song where he says, you see that skin, it's the same she's been standing in since the day She saw him walking away. Now she's left cleaning up the mess he made. And the first time I like really listened to the song and I heard that part, like it resonated. It actually made me cry. It made me cry because I a lot of times feel like I'm still that little girl, that skin, right? It's the same she's been standing in. So though I'm a grown woman at this point, at times I feel like I'm still standing in that same little girl skin of, where's my dad? When is he gonna show up? Or, where's my protector? When is he gonna show up? Is he gonna love us? Will he ever love me, more than everything else that's happening outside of here, outside of our relationship? And then the chorus to that song is, fathers, be good to your daughters. Daughters will love like you do. Girls become lovers who turn into mothers. So mothers, be good to your daughters too. Um, and so again, it hit home for me all around the board because though I know both of my parents, to the core of them, are really great people. By no means do I feel like, I still need to judge them and hold on to this hurt for a version of them that I experienced as a little girl. Because in these moments now, um, like I don't have my dad here to address him the same way I I have my mom. So, these moments where I'm dealing with the traumas that my dad left behind, or the traumas that I took on from our relationship, there's nobody to confront. There's no one to look at and say, get an understanding of where you were at that time and, what you may have been going through or what he may have been going through that made him do, such a change in his behavior and his parenting abilities, and that I think that's the hardest part. Is because there's almost like no resolution that I can get from him. It's almost like a resolution I have to give to myself, just by really looking at how I was affected and how I took that effect and moved on into, further relationships in my life. And there's been moments where I have way overplayed my part, in a relationship because the moment somebody pulled away, it triggered the, well, what did I do? Like, what did I, am I not good enough? Like I always think it's my fault. Like something was, like we did something wrong. Like I did something wrong because that's how I used to look at it. Like with my dad, like what did I do so wrong to make you not want to like be my dad and be here and show up on birthdays and show up on holidays and, be a part of, my growing up. Um, it just, that feeling of lack will make you act out in ways that, had you been able to really heal those things within you, you probably wouldn't exhibit those behaviors, um that also ties back to like the people pleasing, from the first video. Certain things that I dealt with was an effect of both parents, not just one. But then there was, like my mom never abandoned us, though, you know, she had her unhealed trauma. She was always there. She was always present. She always showed up. And I can't say that for him. He didn't give us that. So, that the lack of presence is profound in the insecurity, or his lack of presence is profound in the insecurity that I hold of, not feeling good enough to be maybe in a relationship. Um, um, Forgive me, I'm so sorry. This is, this can be, again, this is my journey of working through these things. So there will be moments where emotionally, I gotta take a second. um, because I don't just want to be on here boo-hoo crying. Okay. But I also knew that in working through my stuff in this manner, I would really be able to not only share my story, but also see myself tell the story so that I could then begin to understand how to heal from it. Um, so again, his lack of presence created the insecurity within me to feel like, you know, like I have to do everything that I can to save a relationship, like I don't know. I created this notion in my head that as long as I did everything humanly possible, to fix a relationship, um, if it failed, it's not on me. Um, but sometimes my doing everything to fix it wasn't always being done in the healthiest of ways. Because again, I'm moving off a space of hurt. I'm moving off a space of being triggered by someone else's emotions. So I'm really acting as that little girl still standing there in that same skin in front of her daddy, like, what did I do wrong? Like, why am I not good enough? Why don't you love me enough? And so, I can truly say that my relationships, again, I haven't had many, but the manner in which I may have handled them I can say was not the best. It wasn't. Um, and so I knew that the biggest part of this journey for me um, was going to be working through the things that I hold on to when it comes to my parents. Because once I can let go of um, those perceived notions that I have about, my relationships with them, or once I can heal um, the feelings of lack, or the feelings of not being good enough, the feelings of, you know, being a people pleaser, or, just wanting to do the most just to be seen, just to be heard. I knew that I couldn't continue trying to have relationships if I didn't heal those things from my past. And again, this journey starts with your parents. So when you really want to address going down a path of healing, you got to start with where it originated, because that's how you learn a lot of the processes that you take out in the world, a lot of the behaviors that you exhibit when you start having your own relationships come from what you seen as a child. So um, you know again, this journey most likely won't be an easy one. But I know that by me speaking my truth about how, I was affected growing up, how outside behaviors from, my parents affected me growing up. Um, I knew that by speaking about it, um, someone else could benefit. Maybe someone else could resonate, and or someone else could give me their story that helps me move through this a little bit easier, and with a little bit more grace and understanding. Um, I love my dad still. I took on a very negative um, outlook when it came to him. And, um, I wish that I had known him better. I wish that the family members around who knew him better would have provided um, some insight into like things that he'd experienced, um, so that I could have not been so judgmental of him. Because, when my mom was able to have those conversations with me, I was able to let go of a lot of that judgment and a lot of that hurt, because I had her, there to give me an understanding. Whereas I never got an understanding from him. So there just remained that resentment and that hurt and that pain of him not being there. Um, and I remember when I was younger, I would, um, like some people would ask me, have you heard from your dad or have you seen your dad? And um, I remember a few times my response being, nope, I'm just waiting to get the phone call to tell me that he's dead or he's overdosed or whatever. Because mm, um, I wouldn't allow myself to hope for anything different, because every time I did hope for a different outcome, every time I thought things might get a little better, or, you know, he might put some effort behind, getting clean or anything like that, I was let down. Because it didn't happen. So I let go of the hope that it could happen. And I let go of him essentially. Um, and I will say it's not many things in my life that I do regret. But one of my big, probably my only regret, because yeah, probably my only regret in life, out of all the choices that I've made, is the fact that I did not allow my father the opportunity to meet my son. Um, Near the time of his passing, we were working towards that. But all the other years that I could have introduced that relationship, introduced my son to his grandfather so that he would also have just another understanding of who I was as his mom. I didn't allow that to happen because I was so afraid that um, he would be that same disappointment in my son's life. And I always say, I'm not gonna like there won't be any inconsistency with my child. If I see you're being inconsistent with my son, that's going to be the end of that relationship, because I had such a fear of um, him knowing what it feels like, you know, knowing what that feels like, to have someone be inconsistent with you and you not know where you stand, and you not know, how, if the love is real, if the love is there at all. But I knew my dad loved me. I did, like, that's not something I ever questioned really in my heart of hearts. I just questioned if love was enough, you know? Because sometimes love isn't enough. And for a lot of years in my life, love wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for him to feel like he could make that change. So I just held, I just kept holding on to that insecurity. But it is high time that I let that insecurity go, because I know that I am enough. I know that I am worthy. I know that I deserve to be loved wholeheartedly. Um, and I can't let my fears dictate how my son interacts and has his relationships either. Um, so that is also a big part of me needing to, um, walk, you know, you can't get over the pain. You got to walk through it. You have to walk through it. Um, and so I'm walking through it, and I know I'll come out better on the other end because of it. Um, but I'll just leave you with like for me again, the absence of my father was probably the most profound absence I've ever felt, like from anyone in my life. So again, I'm gonna take it back to the fathers, be good to your daughters, because daughters will love like you do. Girls become mothers or lovers that turn into mothers. So mothers, be good to your daughters too. Because at the end of the day, there is a mother and a father that is going to shape the outlook of the child that they're raising. And the better we can be for ourselves, the better we can show up and be for the children that we bring into this world. So again, I love both of my parents, my mom and my dad. God rest his soul. But I love them both. My mom is very close to me. I am very close to my mom. Um, and I only would have wished that I could have had that with my dad. I do. I truly do. Um, and at this point, I'm glad that I don't have to judge them for like, I don't blame them for how my life turned out. Like, I don't, that was never an issue of mine. I never blamed them for like choices I made or anything like that. But I can see right now that I am being way more introspective. If I have to be honest with myself, I can see how my relationships with both my mom and my dad affected how I did like go out into the world and how I did show up to the world. Um, So, like, again, like, as parents, let's just stay mindful and be mindful. It's never too late to make a change. It's never too late to be a better version of yourself, and just try to always, try to be the best that you can be so that you can show your child the best that you are. They can learn from the better healed version of you versus the, resentful, unhealed version of you, because those are traumas that they will also pick up and move on with, and exhibit when they go out into the world. So I'm going to go ahead and end this video here. And stay tuned, like, share, subscribe. But stay tuned because there is more to this fool's journey to come. And I look forward to sharing my journey with you guys. Okay? So have a good day and mwah.